"Don't let him twist it," my mother whispered, her voice barely audible over the oxygen hiss. It was never about the money. I stared at her. Hollow cheeks, paper-thin skin, that crimson birthmark like a brand above her right temple. I opened my mouth to ask what she meant, but the machines beeped, and just like that, she was gone. 3 weeks later, I stood in black heels that pinched in front of people who'd mostly shown up to make sure she was really dead. Persian funerals bring out the best and worst in people. Everyone sobs, clutches at their chests, wails like they personally suffered the most, but God forbid anyone breaks tradition or shows up in flats. And then there's the food. Always too much food. Always from that one aunt who uses saffron like it's water. But none of that mattered because I couldn't stop staring at him, Cyrus, my brother, or half-brother, technically, but nobody ever said it out loud, not even her. He was leaning against the fountain wall like he was posing for a goddamn cologne ad. Same broad shoulders, same smug expression, like he was already 10 steps ahead of everyone else. Only difference was the scar under his left eyebrow. I didn't remember that. He hadn't come home in 14 years. Not when she had surgery, not when she got diagnosed, not even when I called him, crying from the hospital parking lot, saying she might not make it through the night. And now, here he was, in a designer black suit, hugging people like some prodigal son. Like he hadn't just ghosted the entire family for over a decade. He didn't even look at me during the burial, which, honestly, fine, easier. I just didn't expect the will to be read that night. Parvaneh Rahimi, our mother, loved ceremony, loved drama. She planned the post-funeral dinner like it was a royal banquet. And, of course, she wrote her will like it was a damn screenplay. We were sitting in the formal living room. The velvet couches, the glass coffee table that nobody was allowed to put drinks on. Her lawyer, Mr. Mahran, looked like he hadn't slept since the 90s. His hands shook when he opened the envelope. Cyrus sat across from me, one arm slung over the back of the couch, completely casual, like he was expecting a prize. I guess we both were. And then it happened. To my daughter, Laleh Rahimi, I leave the primary residence, all financial assets, and my full share of Rahimi imports, including voting rights. I couldn't hear the rest, not really. I felt dizzy. People were staring. My cousin gasped. My aunt whispered something in Farsi that sounded suspiciously like shame. I didn't move, didn't blink. And Cyrus? He laughed. Not loud, just one sharp exhale, like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. Then he stood up. "Unbelievable," he muttered, mostly to himself. Then louder, of course she did." "Cyrus," I tried, but my voice came out weak, paper-thin, just like hers at the end. He looked at me then, really looked, and his eyes, green like hers, were furious. "You always knew this was coming," he said, low and hard. "Didn't you?" Then he turned and walked out. I didn't eat dinner, didn't talk to anyone, just waited until the last relative had faked their final sob and left with a Tupperware full of cuckoo sabzi. Then I went upstairs. My old room was untouched. Same floral wallpaper, same bookshelf filled with my mother's old Farsi poetry books. I sat on the edge of the bed, still in my black dress, and just stared at my hands. He was wrong. I didn't know. I didn't ask. I didn't want to know. But she'd said weird things near the end, rambling stuff about mistakes, about things she should have told me. I brushed it off. I thought it was the meds. Until something in me told me to go into her room. It still smelled like her perfume, that rose water and oud blend she always wore, even when she was bedridden. The bed was perfectly made, probably by the housekeeper, but the jewelry box on her vanity was slightly open. That jewelry box had been locked for years. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe I just needed to feel close to her. Maybe I wanted answers. Or maybe some part of me already knew. I opened it. Necklaces, rings, that weird antique brooch she never wore but refused to give away. And then I saw it, tucked beneath the velvet lining. A small sealed envelope, my name on the front, in her handwriting. And underneath it, written in tiny, tight script, "If he ever finds out, tell him the truth." Cyrus slammed the file on the table so hard, the lawyer actually flinched. "Explain this," he snapped. "Explain why this version, dated 6 months ago, names me as sole heir, and why the final version mysteriously gives it all to Lale." I didn't even have to be there. I could picture it perfectly. The clenched jaw, the smug lawyer flinching like he didn't go to Stanford Law. Cyrus gets like that when he feels cornered, or worse, when he feels small. Anyway, he didn't call me after the meeting, not even a text. I only found out because Parvani's lawyer, Mr. Mehta, called me the moment Cyrus left. "He's upset," he said, like I didn't already know. "And he's asking questions I'm not sure you want answered." I just said thank you and hung up. Then I sat in her bedroom for like an hour, just staring at the dresser where she used to keep her perfume. Half her bottle's still there. Half the drawer still smells like jasmine and vinegar. And I kept thinking about that last night, her voice rasping. Don't let him twist it. I didn't even know what she meant at the time. But then I remembered the letter, the one she'd made me promise not to open until after the funeral, tucked in that little silver box she never let anyone touch. I took it out like it was going to bite me, slit the seal with a nail file. Inside was one sheet, her handwriting, careful, deliberate. "Lale June, I know what this will look like, but there are things you don't know. Things Cyrus doesn't know. I never wanted lies, but some debts don't disappear just because time passes. You were there. You saw what I owed. Please understand, I loved you both, but only one of you was mine." I had to read it like 3 times. Only one of you was mine. I thought it was some metaphor, some dramatic guilt trip, but no, Parvane didn't do metaphors. I called Shireen. "Do you remember when Cyrus was born?" I asked. She paused. "Not really. I mean, I was, 6? Do you remember Mom being pregnant?" Long silence. "Wait, holy shit," she whispered. "Now that you say it, no, I don't. And then it started to click. All the tiny, weird things. The way Parvane never liked talking about his birth story. How Cyrus didn't have baby photos until he was like 2. The random aunt who suddenly disappeared after one visit. The way Baba would never correct Mom when she said, "my son," instead of "our son." And that one night when I was 11, we were sitting on the floor sorting beads for her jewelry class, and I remember she suddenly looked at me and said, "Sometimes we raise what isn't ours, because it becomes ours." I thought she meant the cat we'd just adopted. I didn't know she meant Cyrus. The thing is, none of this was his fault. He didn't ask for it. He didn't know. And God, he'd hate this, being pitied. But I also knew what he was gonna do next. He was gonna come after me, twist the story, claim I manipulated her in her final days, that I poisoned her mind or whatever bullshit makes him sleep at night. So yeah, I made my own appointment. DNA testing. Quiet, private, No one else needed to know yet. But while I waited for the results, I did something even worse. I went into her office, not for anything dramatic. I just wanted, I don't know, something that made her feel real again. A scarf, maybe, a note, something mine. Instead, I found the envelope, manila, faded, tucked behind her tax files. Inside, court documents, Iranian, dated 1983. My Farsi's not great, but I could make out a few words. Custody, transfer, private adoption. There it was, black and white. Cyrus was the child of Parvane's cousin, a girl who'd shamed the family. Parvane took him in to restore honor. And then, buried deep in the folder, a photo. A baby, wrapped in blue, and in the corner, in pen, Reza. I swear to God, my stomach dropped so hard I had to sit on the floor. Because I remembered something else. That time in college when Cyrus got drunk and said, "You know, I almost changed my name to Reza once. I always thought it sounded more real." When I got home, I put everything back in the envelope, tucked it in the back of my closet. Then I sat at the kitchen table and just stared at the DNA results. Positive match. Half sibling. Not full. Not maternal. I didn't know how to tell him. I didn't even know if I should. It felt cruel. It felt like lighting a match in a room already soaked in gasoline. But I didn't have to. Because the next morning, Cyrus showed up at my door. Didn't even knock, just barged in like we were still teenagers. He looked like hell. Hair wild, dark circles under his eyes, one hand gripping a manila envelope so tight it was crumpled. "I did it," he said. "I took the damn test." I just stared at him. "And?" I whispered. He tossed the envelope on the counter, like it burned. "I'm not her son." I didn't even finish reading it, just threw my phone on the bed and stood there, hands shaking, staring at the wall like it might blink first. I knew Cyrus would go nuclear. I didn't think he'd go this far. He filed the lawsuit 2 days after the will was finalized. Undue influence, coercion, fraudulent documentation. He threw every legal term he could at me like he was playing inheritance bingo. And when I say he filed the lawsuit, I mean he leaked it first, straight to that slimy local blogger with the bad dye job and zero integrity. So yeah, my inbox, on fire. Voicemails from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Strangers DMing me like they knew my mother. Everyone's suddenly an expert in Persian estate law and family dysfunction. I tried to stay quiet. I really did. But then Aunt Sharon called. "Your brother is hurting," she said, like I didn't already know that. I was standing in the pantry, door shut, pretending I was looking for cumin while I whispered, "Hurting people don't hire PR teams." There was this long sigh. Then her voice softened, like she was talking to a child. "He thinks she never loved him." I swallowed. "That's not my fault." "No," she said, "but you're letting him believe it." And I don't know what it was. Maybe the guilt, maybe the loneliness, maybe the 1,000-yard stare I developed from rereading the will 10 times a day, but I actually considered it, giving it all up, just walking away. Not because I thought he deserved it, but because I didn't want to be the villain in his version of the story anymore. The press conference was supposed to be small, controlled, just a statement, no questions. I wrote it out by hand, then typed it, then printed it and highlighted parts in yellow like I was cramming for an exam. Cyrus didn't know. Only Daria did, my cousin, the one person still speaking to both of us without choosing a side. She helped me book the space, pick the outfit, get through the damn door. She was fixing my jacket collar when she said it. "You don't have to do this." I blinked at her. "What?" "You can just live your life, quietly. Let him scream into the void if he wants. You don't owe anyone." "I do," I snapped. "I owe her. She didn't raise me to be a coward." The second it came out, I regretted it. Daria flinched like I'd slapped her. Anyway, I walked toward the curtain, heels echoing on that polished wood floor like gunshots. The podium was just on the other side. Camera crew already rolling. And then, bam! My chest locked up like someone sat on it, like actually sat on it. I couldn't breathe. My knees buckled, palms numb, whole body buzzing like a phone on vibrate. Next thing I know, I'm on the floor. Eyes wide, mouth open, not making a sound. I could hear Daria shouting my name, someone calling 911. I was trying to say, I'm fine, but my tongue felt too big. Or maybe I'd swallowed it. I don't know. Everything was loud and far away at the same time. Panic attack. Never had one before. 10 out of 10, do not recommend. They gave me a brown paper bag to breathe into, like some cliché out of a sitcom. But it worked, kind of. They canceled the press conference. Statement never got read. I never gave anything up. And I couldn't tell if that was a relief or another kind of failure. 3 days later, Cyrus showed up on the front porch. Unannounced, no warning, just knocked, like it was a Sunday visit and not the middle of a war. I opened the door halfway, didn't say anything. He looked tired. Not just jet lag tired, like soul tired. Like he hadn't been sleeping since Mom died. He held up a leather-bound notebook. "She wrote this," he said. "I found it in the back of the storage unit, under her old records." I didn't move. So? "So, maybe you should read it before you give everything up." I never said I was giving. "You were going to," he cut in. "We both know it." Silence. Then he shoved the journal into my hands and walked away. No goodbye, no smug smile, just left. I didn't open it for hours, just stared at the cover, ran my fingers over the cracked spine, wondered if this was another trick, some weird guilt play. But then I flipped to the first page, and I swear, her handwriting hit me like a slap. That neat, slanted Farsi script sloppily translated into English halfway down the page. Her voice in my head so loud I almost dropped the damn thing. May 12, 1984. Cyrus came home from school with a cut on his chin. Said he fell. I know he's lying. That boy lies like it's a reflex. But I cleaned the wound anyway. Kissed his forehead while he glared at me like I'd insulted him. He doesn't trust affection. Not mine, anyway. Maybe it's because he knows, even if I never told him. God help me, I've never loved a child more. I read that sentence 5 times, then kept going. There were pages, pages of her grappling with it, that he wasn't hers by blood, that she hadn't cared him, that some part of her still felt like a thief, even after all those years. But she tried. Every day she tried to make up for it. Overcorrected, overprotected, overcompensated. He takes everything as rejection, she wrote once. I smile too long and he thinks I'm hiding something. I raise my voice and he thinks I hate him. I stay silent and he thinks I want him gone. I want him loved. I sat on the edge of the bed, gripping the journal like it might run away. And for the first time in weeks, months maybe, I stopped being angry. Because she hadn't picked me over him. She'd just loved us differently. And she died before she could explain it. I don't know how long I sat there. But when I finally stood up, I knew what I had to do. For him, for her, for myself. I printed out a new statement, did my hair, put on the same outfit from the failed press conference. This time, I didn't bring Daria. I didn't need backup. But as I stepped behind the curtain, clutching the pages in my sweaty hand, heart pounding like a drum, everything went black. The first thing Cyrus said when I walked into the hospital room was, "You look like crap." I actually laughed, laughed. After everything, court threats, lawyer emails, the article, he looked up from the IV in his arm, smirked like a little shit, and said that. And I laughed. I didn't realize how tired I was until I sat down. "I brought your charger," I mumbled, digging through my bag. "And that weird trail mix you like, the one with the fake M&Ms? He raised an eyebrow. "The off-brand ones taste better." I shrugged. Not gonna argue with a man who got appendicitis during a legal battle. Stress-induced, probably. "Thanks for that." There it was. The edge, not sharp, but still enough to cut. I nodded. "Sure, anytime." Silence. Long. Heavy. The kind that wraps around your neck, not your shoulders. I stared at the ugly painting above his bed, some sad sailboat in muted blues, and said, "I read it." Cyrus didn't pretend not to know what I meant. He just closed his eyes. Not like he was tired, like he was bracing. "You shouldn't have had to," he said quietly. I did. We both just sat there. I still had Mom's journal in my bag, the one I found wedged behind her jewelry drawer, the spine half broken, pages filled with cramped Farsi. Took me 2 weeks to translate most of it, 1 page at a time. I read it in pieces, couldn't handle more than that. I pulled it out and set it on the tray table between us. Cyrus stared at it like it might hiss. "She was scared," I said, "all the time." He scoffed. "Of what? She controlled everything." "She was scared of losing us." He looked at me then. Not like he wanted to fight, just confused, and maybe a little sad. She adopted you because she couldn't have more kids, I said. But she thought she didn't deserve you because of how she got me. He blinked. What the hell does that mean? I took a deep breath. This was the part I hadn't said out loud to anyone, not even myself, really. She didn't plan to keep me, I said. After Baba left, she was gonna send me to her cousin in Esfahan, pretend she was just my aunt, start over. But when I got sick, pneumonia, remember? She stayed. She chose me. His jaw clenched. So why treat me like a charity case? She didn't, I said. Not really. She just didn't know how to show it. She wrote about your first day of school like it was her wedding day. She said you wore those green sneakers and didn't let go of her hand the whole morning. He looked away. She called you her second sunrise. She said she didn't know it was possible to feel love and guilt at the same time until she met you. He wiped his eye with the heel of his hand. Didn't say anything. I flipped to the last page. Her handwriting was shaky by then, letters slanting like they were sliding off the edge. If they knew the truth, would they still call me their mother? I don't deserve the grace they give me. But maybe, just maybe, they'll see each other and choose love over the shadow I cast. I didn't read it out loud. I just slid it toward him. He read it, silently, then again, then shut the book. I hated her, he said suddenly, for years. Not all at once, in pieces. When she forgot my birthday, when she told me to keep my voice down in front of guests, when she asked me why I was always so difficult. I didn't interrupt. But then I'd get sick, and she'd sleep on the floor next to my bed. Or she'd make rema, even though she hated the smell of fried onions, and I'd forget. He rubbed his scar, the one under his eyebrow. You remember when I split my face on the bookshelf? I nodded. You bled everywhere. She held me so tight in the ER, I couldn't breathe. Just kept whispering, "Don't leave me, don't leave me." I thought she was talking to me, but maybe she was talking to Baba. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't say anything. We sat there until the nurse came in and asked if we wanted tea. I said yes. Cyrus said, "Only if it's real cardamom, not that dusty cafeteria kind." She rolled her eyes. "I'm Persian, not British. Relax." We both smiled. It was the first time we'd smiled together in, God, 10 years? When she left, I turned to him and said, "I don't want it." He frowned. "Want what?" "The estate. All of it. I'm not keeping it." His eyebrows shot up. "Wait, what?" "I already talked to the lawyer. We can split it, 50-50. No drama. I don't care about the house or the stocks or whatever. Take the beach condo too. I never liked Half Moon Bay." He stared at me like I'd sprouted wings. "You're serious?" "Yeah." "Why now?" I looked at the journal. "Because I finally believe she loved us," I said, "even if she did a terrible job showing it." He leaned back against the pillows, covered his face with his hands. "I can't take it," he mumbled. "What?" "I can't. I don't want it either. Not like this." We went back and forth for a while, like idiots. "You take it." "No, you." "Seriously, stop being so stubborn." "You're being stubborn." Then he said, "What if we do something else with it?" I paused. "You mean, like, donate it?" He shook his head. "No, I mean, yeah, kind of, but not just write a check and walk away." And that's how the idea started. The Parvaneh Rahimi Foundation, for immigrant families, for women trying to raise kids on their own, for people caught between countries trying to hold on to both without losing themselves. We're still figuring it out. The paperwork's a mess. He wants to name the mentorship program after our dad. I want to name it after her old seamstress. We'll probably fight about it. Whatever. But it's ours. We even did the announcement together. One press release, one photo, no headlines about who won. Honestly, it's weird, talking to him without wanting to throw something. He still calls me uptight. I still tell him he needs therapy. But last week, he brought over a bag of Lavashok and stayed for 3 hours. We didn't even talk about her. Just laughed about the time she made us vacuum the garage for saying shut up in Farsi. I don't know what's going to happen next, but for the first time in a long time, I'm not scared to find out. And maybe that's the real legacy she left us. Not the house, not the money, just a chance to choose each other.